Hi guys, it's Sean Darling here again with Red Spectre Animation and Red Spectre Studios, Griffin's Egg Enterprises. And today we're going to be working again on First Day of Winter, the remake. This is part 2. So let's get started.
We're gonna learn animation in Moho and animate everything in Moho. It's easier than using a yo-yo, yeah. Now it's time to learn to use Moho.
Alright, so here we are in Moho, and I have this background I've done here. And it's just an image, basically. There's no depth, nothing like that. We can't do parallax or anything. So we're going to fix that. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. Now what I've done is just brought the image in as it is. What I'm worried about primarily is my layers here in the bottom right corner. Right now we're on the background and that layer is locked. I'm going to unlock this. Now with a little help, we're going to cut this apart and make a new background that actually has depth and parallax to it. Then we'll bring that all over into Moho and get moving on this thing for our first shot of the animation. So first things first, we're going to want to separate any of these foreground objects from the rest. So I'm going to start off with my object selection tool and see what it will do by default. So I'm just going to select this front rock. Hopefully it will take the whole thing. Using our object selection tool. So we grab this rock now. And I'm going to cut it, edit cut. And I'm going to go edit, paste special, paste in place. That'll put it back in exactly where you had cut it away from, on its own layer. I'm going to rename this right away and call this rock right, and we'll get rock right too in a second. So now I'm going to go ahead and use our object selection tool on the first layer, come back in here and select this rock and edit cut, or you can use Control X. Then we can go back and come over here to edit, paste special, paste in place, which is Shift Control V if you want to use that particular key combination. So I'm going to click paste in place and we'll have it here as well. Now one problem we're going to have, and I'm just going to turn those layers off for a minute, is we'll have this big hole right here in our background. I'm going to select that background, and with our lasso tool, I'm just going to come across here. I'm just going to come over here and draw around those rocks, or where those rocks used to be. And now we have that highlighted. What I'm going to do is, with a little help from AI, we're going to click right here in Generative Fill, and it's going to bring up this pop-up, and I'm just going to say generate, see what it does on its own, and then it'll start. What will happen is we'll be left with, in this dialog box right here, 3 different options. So the first one puts a different rock there, which we don't want. The third one removes it but creates this odd, almost phallic looking thing. And then the second one is definitely more of what we're talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead with that one. Now, while that is selected, I'm just going to click on that layer and shift select the one of the background, right click and say merge layers, and it will merge our background layer in with that new piece. And now when we turn our rocks back on, they look like they never left. But the cool thing is they now will have parallax because we can pull them away in 3D space to make them farther away than the background is. Let's first of all get rid of these rest of these foreground objects. And I'm going to click my select object tool again. There we go. We've now selected that rock We're going to also eventually select this one and this one, but let's go ahead and grab just this one. We will go edit, cut, edit, paste special, paste in place, you remember. So now we have 3 layers. Now we're gonna grab these other rocks here on that first layer. So this one we're gonna grab and we're gonna go edit, cut, edit, paste special, paste in place. And then we're gonna come back to the first layer again, and we're gonna try and grab this rock. Now if it does this, try dragging across this rock and it should select it out. So we're gonna do that one more time, just drag, it'll recognize this is what we mean. We're gonna go edit, cut, edit, paste special, paste in place. And now we have that rocks layer. So we have all these rocks up here and the ground. So now we need to go back. I'm gonna turn off all these other layers so we don't get distracted by them. And you'll be able to see this large hole we have in our original layer again. And all we have to do, once again, is just surround the area that we want to fill in. And I'm gonna leave this bottom. The other one I kind of didn't take out that dark part, and the reason why I'm going to is because I want this to also still be there so that that shadow area still exists. So let's just grab this like this a little more. It's just a little too close to the edge for my taste. And now I'm going to minus this area because I got a little too much of that in my opinion too. There we go. This one as well, we need to add just a little more to it. So I hold shift, add just a little more right here. There we go. And now we can generative fill and just generate. We don't have to put any prompt in for this. Looks great. So what we're gonna do is click on that new layer and shift select the background layer, right click, and merge layers again. So now we have this background with all of our separate rocks in parallax. To make this have even more depth, we're actually going to grab this rock as well. Let's go ahead and turn off all of our rocks. So now that we have all that off, we're going to take this rock and the little one at its base because they're on essentially the same depth level. And we're going to try and automatically select those. Make sure you click the background layer first. And we're just going to come through and do like so. And it only took part of it, so we're going to grab the rest here, see if it will start grabbing. So what I'm going to do now, since that isn't working, is just grab all the way top to bottom. There we go. And we also want to grab this little guy here, and that seems to have done a good job too. Let's go ahead and grab the little one next to it now, and possibly a little more of it there. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and also grab this shadow because it doesn't know if it is or isn't part of that. And I think everything's relatively good now. I'm just going to edit, cut that, edit, paste special, paste in place, and it's right back where it belongs. We're going to turn it off, and once again we're going to repaint in this entire area here. And what you can do is what I just did is click in it, and now it's got a mask around that area, and you can come in here. So now we can come up to transform selection, and we're just going to widen it out just a tiny bit, and we're going to widen it out just to the side and move it up slightly just to where you're getting, you know, this stuff included. It just makes it a little easier. And then we could go back with our lasso tool if you want. Hold down the shift to add this little piece in, and you're good to go. So now we'll just generative fill, generate, and wait for the magic. And right off the bat, that looks amazing. We don't want rocks, so never mind those. That one looks great too. I think we'll go with that third one. And once again, all we have to do is drag that piece down right next to the background, shift select both those layers, right click and merge those together. Now, pretty much all the rocks have been removed, but what about this overhang? It'd be nice if this had some depth to it as well. So really easily, we're going to try this again with our selecting the subject here. Some of it gets selected, not as much as I would like. So I'm just holding Shift and trying to add to my selection. And that is working out as long as I keep not overdoing it. So you have to do this sometimes in steps. I'm going to go ahead now and see if I can get this whole thing here. It's having a little difficulty finding the parts, but as long as my persistence holds out, it should get the rest of this. And if not, I can go in there and manually select it. So couldn't find anything there. We're going to go ahead and see if we can add this. And then just this last part, maybe here. We don't want any of this. We only want So let's go ahead and just take all these. I'm going to put them in a folder so that they will be in a folder later. And we're going to say create a new group. This is going to be called Cave Bedroom. And now when we save this out, we're going to go save as first day of winter, and we're going to call this Cave Bedroom Wide. And that's going to give us a PSD with all of our layers as this bedroom shot. And we're going to say OK to that. And now we're going to switch it back over into Moho. All right, and here we are back in Moho. Now what we want to do is get rid of the original image we brought in. So I'm just going to right click on that and delete that layer. And then now we're going to file, import, general import. We're going to find our cave bedroom wide PSD. I'm going to say OK. And we do want to import layers individually. So we're going to go ahead and say yes, and it brings them all inside of the folder just like we had it. Now I'm going to put our guy on top, and then we're going to go ahead and just hide him for now. Also going to turn off my curves just for the moment. And let's go ahead and zoom out, select that layer of the bedroom, and let's just make it as large as our scene here. Now remember, these are all completely separate layers, each individual rock and everything. So we should have named these, but we did not, so that's okay. So the things that were on the top are going to be seen in front of other things that are not. So just remember that the order is important to keep it the way that it is. Now we have this little icon over here, the orbit tool. I'm going to click on it, and when I move my mouse, drag it along the background, it's going to put us into this 3D view here. Now I'm just going to navigate around to show you this is just one flat plane, but we do have all the other images on there. In fact, if we take this first rock and we select the layer icon, it'll show you where it's at, and we can grab that and move it around. The thing is, going back to this orbit tool, that does move it forward, but it increases its size because it's now closer to the camera. To keep that from happening, we have a special trick. So I'm going to undo that. Well, if I pulled this forward like so, and we went back to our 2D view here, you click on the orbit again and click reset view, you'll see now my rock is nowhere to be found because it's been moved down, up, wherever it was. We go ahead and undo that, and it's right here. We go back into this orbit view, we grab that layer, we hold shift and alt while we do that, and as we move forward and let go, it changes its size in relativeness to the camera. So as we pull this forward and let go, it will pop and change its size smaller. You can see that happening because it's closer to the camera and it's trying to adjust. We click back over here on this orbit tool, back to reset view, and it'll look exactly like it did before, except for it is actually closer to the camera. If we click on our track camera button here and move around, you can see how it slides from side to side. Now there is one issue, I did not paint the rest of this rock. I should have. But let's just reset that view, and let's go back into this 3D orbit view and try to readjust the rest. And remember, that is shift and alt at the same time. So we're going to go back into here, select layer 2, and now the transform layer, and that is this big guy. And we're just going to shift and alt and move it toward the camera, and you can see it changing its size in relation to where it needs to be. The archway, then again, isn't really much more forward than the bed. I just wanted to make sure it was farther enough away from the rocks more than anything. So let's just see if this helps us. Now, back to here, back to reset the view. We'll try to, with our track camera, move forward and not look ridiculous. I think that's looking a lot better, even though there's a little bit of sliding there. It's not so much that it's weird. You're not even going to see most of that. That's happening toward the front there. So it's going to start about here, and by that time it'll be gone. Also, we're going to want to kind of push in toward the bed. So first things first, let's go ahead and get the camera set here, and we're going to make a keyframe by just clicking in. Camera will be here, and I just want to adjust my Z depth slightly in and out to get us that keyframe. And then this needs to take about 4.5 seconds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just go about to here, almost to 100 or so. And now we're just gonna let the Z depth come down a little bit, and we're not gonna zoom in too far, like maybe to here. And then I want to take this truck camera and slide it over a bit. You can see even that makes our background shift very cool. And so this should, without any problems, get us pushed in. Now we have to worry, you don't have to worry, but I mean, you have to expect the fact that from this angle though, we are now pushed over. We need to push that back over and probably push in just a little to account for the fact that we did slide over. And now we have this big gap on this rock, which I really do need to fix. But everything else looks great. So from here, we'll just come in, going down toward that spot in the bed. That looks great. So with this, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to add a little bit to this rock here. So let me find out where it's at, which one it is. We can select the layer, and we should see where we're at here. There should be, yeah, it's rock. Remember, the first rock is rock. So I'm going to make another layer right on top of it. Hopefully this will work. We'll call this rock lower, just to show you how you can patch this up. I would normally do this in Photoshop though, but let's go ahead and just create basically a little patch here in our rock lower someday. So now I'm just going to draw a shape and fill in the rest of this rock. Now what I need to do though is change its color to approximate what that color should be. Some kind of gray, dark bluish color. We need to make sure we select the shape, select the color we want it to be, some type of grayish dark blue color to match. If you don't get it absolutely perfectly right, that's okay. Just try your best. And I'm going to say okay. And that has to go below this front rock, however. So let's figure out where he is, and that's him here. This one now goes behind that one. And we also need to make sure it's at the same level away from the camera as everything else. So with our tool here, this patch needs to go right where that rock is. So I'm going to hold my Shift and Alt while I click on my layer button here, hold Shift and Alt, and just move this back to the same place in space as that guy, and we should get no gap. So I'm just gonna go back here, reset our view, and when we move forward, it should seem fine. So I'm gonna click off of everything, and now as we move forward, our camera should go, and now we have that. And now we're in camera move mode. We can see that that works fine. I'm going to click on the paved bedroom layer, the other layer. So nothing is selected. And now when we move forward, you can see that stays there. And I believe everything looks relatively good. Everything looks like it's sliding along the ground. There's another way we can fix that by splitting the ground and having it elongate, or we could actually separate it and stretch the bottom half. There's a bunch of different ways to make that happen, but I think overall it looks pretty good. We're getting the parallax for the top part and everything. And let's just check now also the timing of this. Try not to pay attention to the outside. As a matter of fact, you can go in here and you can cut off the outsides so you can just show the output here. And that's all we will see. And for the most part, that looks great. I think what I really want to do is possibly create a shadow right here for at least this large stone. I believe that is our archway. No, that would be... Is it that stone? I think this one here, the archway, is what I'm looking at. So, really quick and easy. Once again, we can come in here, create a vector layer just above that, and then I'm going to drag it behind it because it needs to be a shadow and be behind that layer. And I'm going to put this as arch shadow. We're just going to draw in, and it may even be the same color that we had here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come over here. Remember where our edge is for this particular spot here, and that should be all we need, believe it or not, as long as it is in the same plane. It's moving with these rocks. It should be moving with that arch there. So let's go ahead and look at it in the parallax view. It needs to be in line with that big arch. That is our problem. So we go to the layer and we shift alt select it, and we push that guy back until it is just behind or just at the level of this, of this other layer. So you can just pivot around and make sure that that works, and that looks like that where it needs to be. So now we go back and reset our view and click off of everything just so everything looks relatively normal. And when we go back in here, it looks better. We just need to change the color of it now. So let's just kind of have that arch shadow here selected. That is selected, so we're just going to go into the fill now and kind of brighten it up a bit and gray it out just to find the blue that really should probably be. Maybe something kind of like that. Looks pretty good. I think we'll just select the whole thing again and have a look and see if that's gonna essentially fool the eye into believing, you know, we've done it. So I also want to darken this area right there. You will definitely see less sliding there, and I think that all is not too bad. Alright, so I'm going to take that same shadow layer that I had made right here, and we're going to duplicate that layer, and I'm going to move it and use it for this rock as well, but now we'll have to move it in 3D space. I'm going to change its origin, then let's look at it in the 3D view, and we're going to need to move that up to that level. So let's just grab it, Shift Alt, and just keep sliding it up until you get it into place. This takes a little while to get used to as far as what stuff should look like and where it should be. So click on the orbit tool again, back to reset view, and now we can come in here and grab the actual layer and move it in 2D space to make sure that sits about where it needs to. You're going to get a less slidey look this way because it looks anchored now. I think that's a little possibly too dark, so let's go ahead and grab the shape again there. Just take the fill, go back to a lighter kind of blue here, and just sort of knock that down to something that looks a little more like the rest of the colors. And go this way or that way with it. I think that way was a little better. So we say OK. I even think that the other one that we did, the arch shadow, could definitely use a little more adjustment on its color as well. Something close to the other one. Just trying to find the right tone there. It's a little too colorful. This is the hardest thing you'll do right here. Trying to match your colors. It's a little too purple. Alright, that's a little bit better. I'm just going to bring that a little darker because it is closer to that wall. Let's say okay. Alright, hopefully now that works a bit better, which it definitely does. I think that's less obvious. We could even darken the floor here since it's toward the camera. Alright, so with that, I think we're pretty good on that push in. And next thing we got to do is put the guy in the bed. So let's go ahead and turn him on. I don't know that I'm going to use this actual instance of him because he's not meant to be laying down in that bed. So what I am going to do is redraw a lump that looks like him that's laying in the bed that just turns over once. So it's really just going to be a bluish gray lump like he is. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer on frame, and on that layer we're going to call this blue in bed. And I'm just going to sweep in here and draw a shape that is somewhat the same color as him as well. Use kind of a lighter gray or blue, something like that maybe. Say okay. And instead of making him perfect, I'm just going to make him kind of a lump with his little top whip here. It's going to be a ball-y kind of shape. Mostly like that. That is definitely too dark, so we're going to come in and fix the color, make that a little more blue-green blue, and something a little more like that. And that will be his, essentially, his sleeping body. And I think we'll just have him breathing here. Let's go ahead and give the stroke to him. This will be a pretty fine one. Not that fine. Something about maybe 2, maybe 1.5. Let's put that in instead. Looks better. And so he'll be laying like so. We can also turn on that stroke. We can zoom out now and kind of see he's a little too dark. Easy enough to fix by clicking on him and then selecting a lighter version of the color. Okay, looks good. There he is. So I need to make a little shadow under him, so we don't have to do anything super difficult or special with this, but let's make this just a little darker. And I'm just going to draw like this. It doesn't even need to encompass the whole thing. That would be his shadow, and then we need to take that actually and separate it. I put it on the same layer by mistake. We're going to select the shadow. We're going to go edit cut, and then we're going to make a new layer here, and we're going to paste that. This will be shadow, and we're going to say Control V. We'll paste it back on. We're going to group those together. And now I'm going to call this blue And then we're going to double click, mask that by clicking on mask, hide all. Okay. And then in the blue layer, we're going to say okay, masking, exclude strokes, and okay. And now he has his shadow and his stroke there. And then we just need a little highlight, I think, on the top. And I think that will be all we probably need, unless we put a little arm, but I don't think we necessarily need that either in this shot. He's sleeping. We probably do need to have him facing toward the camera, though. I think that would probably be best. So we will draw a little closed-eyed face real quick. I'm going to make a new layer for that. We'll call this, I'm just going to call it face because we're not going to move any of it around. This is just going to be for the purpose. Go to auto stroke, no fill. I'm going to put this above the shadow layer. And let's make sure that we are using a entirely black stroke. And I'm just going to a couple little closed lines like so. And turn on autofill now. And we're going to make this a lot darker. And we're just going to make a little mouth like that. And that should be good. We need some eyebrows. So let's just go in here and do this. And then this. And I think for the most part that's pretty good. And now he just needs his body highlight. So we'll just make a new layer right above that. Put this highlight. And just throw in with a lighter color of this something appropriate. Maybe that. Just kind of draw this in. And obviously turn the stroke off from it. See if it's too bright or if it works. I think that's okay, but it probably needs to be just a slight bit brighter. And a little bit grayer maybe, so more into the wider arena. I think that probably works. Okay, now we just need to cover him up with this blanket. So now we're going to take him, hopefully drop him into the bedroom set. He's probably going to change scale. He might not even work, so we're going to drop him in, and we're going to put him on the top here, or at least above the bed layers. So I'm just going to throw him in the top to start with. Figure out what he looks like, what size he is. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to make sure we center him on his layer and move that over to where he's kind of sleeping in there like we had him before. I think that's okay. And then I'm going to find where this blanket is. I should have named it, but I didn't. So those are all of our shadows. Let's just kind of check this around here. There's a pillow. There is the blanket. So we're going to take that. He is going to go below that layer 10. So I'm going to grab this and pull it down. We have layer 10. We'll put him right under it. And we now have to make the pillows behind him. So the bed's behind him, or the bed's on top of him. No, the sheet's behind him, so that's good. But we need to make the pillows behind him. So there's one pillow. There's the other. There we go. And now we need to take the blanket layer, which would be layer 10, and put it on top of him. So there we go. Now that looks much more appropriate, much more like it should. And we can shift him around. I can redraw him a little if we want to make him fit in here better. So I'm going to kind of look at this and probably move his body slightly here, some of the points. I mean, I like what's going on, but he looks a little too, there we go. He looked a little too shifted out to that other side. So we just, reorder him around and he'll be perfectly fine. I'm going to grab the whole thing as well, the whole layer, and move him a little lower on the bed. Let me just undo that because we need to move the whole guy. And I think that's not bad. I'm going to now grab the blanket and see if I can manipulate it a bit. We have to do what's called a mesh warp onto it. So I'm going to relabel this blanket just so I don't get lost, which I should have done. So I'm going to come up here into the draw menu, come down here to create mesh layer. And that's going to create a mesh layer over this, which we do want. And I'm going to draw a couple of lines inside of it that are basically going to help us break it up so that we can move it around better. So now, my add points tool, I'm just going to grab a few points here like this. And that will help break up this section of it. I'm just going to add a couple here too. Not that they 100% need to be here, but it does make this a lot easier to move stuff around. I'm also just going to do one kind of along here in case I decide that the whole blanket moves or not. And if you want, you can even make them go down this way, but I don't think we'll worry about that right now. The purpose of this, though, is kind of what I wanted to show you. When you move these points now, once you attach everything, they will move the blanket. So what I'm going to do here, let's go into frame 1. You see if I move that point, it actually moves the blanket as well. It's warping the blanket too. That way I can kind of give this the feeling that it's up over him, and he's actually under it. And remember folks, this is a bitmap layer. It's pretty cool. This is just an image layer. I'm pushing around here. So there we go. Now, first things first is we also need him to breathe. I'm going to turn off the main blue character, the one who's standing there looking at his creepy like in the way. And we're just going to work with this now. We'll turn that warp layer purple lines thing off here in just a second. But so you can, well, let's go ahead and leave it off because I can still see the dots. That's what counts. So I'm going to move the dots up and down in kind of a breathing fashion. I'm going to see how long our shot also takes to play out. Okay, so about to 96, okay, around 100. So let's go to 100. Now you see him doing something really weird. That's because his depth now is wrong. So once back at frame 0, I'm going to go back into our orbit camera here. And you can see, okay, where is our blue guy? He's right here in the center of the screen. We don't want him there. Okay, we need to move his layer, this, way back into the bed again. So with that, we shift alt, just bring him right back to wherever he needs to be. I'm going to spin around to make sure we didn't push him all the way behind everything. So let's just see here. Now you see here. Okay, he's good there, but I'm going to move him back just a slight bit more to make sure he's pretty much on that same plane. Not sure what's in front of that with him. Let's see. Okay, that is him and that board behind him. Let's take that board, see this one here, and I'm just going to make sure that that is also pushed back and not interfering with anything here. There it is, and we're going to select its layer, and I'm just going to Shift Alt click that back behind the pillow, and then we're going to grab him and Shift Alt click him. That will also correct his size for where he is in regards to the camera. And then I'm going to take that pillow and make sure it's not above him either. I mean, it is in the layer order, but not in the space of things here. So now when we go back to our view, everything should 100% still look great. And when we push in, he will stay in bed. Hugely important. Okay, so let's just start here with the mesh. I'm going to click on his blanket again here. And in our, I guess we have to turn our, or we have to click on the mesh warp layer. That way we get our points back. So over about 100 frames, I'm going to go about 120 just to say, because maybe we're going to keep him still at this point. I'm going to grab, a couple points and just create keyframes there. And then I'm going to, at the first, see how long it takes him to take one breath. Let's see. Okay, cool. So 48 frames. This is where we'll be back to. So 24 now, halfway through. We'll lift these up, out, like so. And then back down here on these others. Let's just make sure that looks good. And it does. So here at 96, we're going to copy these and paste them in here. And then at 24, we're going to grab these and paste them halfway through, where we repeat that motion again. And let's just go ahead and copy these and paste them here at 120. So now we get breathing all the way through. And now let's take the character, and we want to make sure that his body, let's just go ahead and give him his origin properly now. No, that was move. Let's get him his origin. And we want to make sure that his body points are moving with the blanket. So we just need to put that up like that. And then back down again. Make that make sense. We're gonna copy those and paste them in just the same way we did before. In fact, we could have grabbed both groups if we really wanted to. So this is the high one. So copy. And at 120, that will be our last shape there. And I might even adjust his mouth now. So with this face selected, we can animate eyebrows and mouth if we want. This is just point animation. So as he breathes in, we can make his eyebrow angle and raise. Make this one raise up, angle as well. And then back to normal like this. In fact, we're going to grab these and put that here in frame 48. So now we'll grab all four of these, copy these, started at 72, paste that in, and then the 120 will be the lifting one again, so copy that, right, and down, and then this one lifts up. And so now with the mouth, let's select this point. That one works for me. Let's undo the movement of it though. And starting here, we'll give that a keyframe. This will come up. And then that way we can copy that particular channel. Not sure why it's not copying this one. Let's try it again. So boom, up and down. And that one needs the up. This one will get the down. So that will be down and up. I'm just going to copy both these guys. Hopefully it will take them now. Copy. So we just need the down and the up here. And that should work just fine. Yeah. All right. So now I think we'll render that out and see what I'll show it to you guys real quick here. That's it, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back with part 3 very soon.
We're gonna learn animation and more.